Hello, I'm Lieutenant Colonel Travis Hurd, Director of Army Instruction for Fulton County Schools. I want to thank you for joining me today. The webinar today, entitled Goal Setting for Success, is another professional development installment in a series that we have linking the JROTC curriculum to personalized learning. My intent during this session is to provide an overview and also review the development of SMART goals. We also want to identify Fulton County Schools JROTC standards and expectations for all students that are participating in the JROTC program. And lastly, I want to make sure that we conduct a JROTC curriculum crosswalk as it relates to personalized learning. Now, I know that there's a vast amount of experience in the field. Many of us, well, all of us being retired military personnel, and many others that are actually viewing this that may not have actually served in the military. But we've served in organizations that have actually been involved in the continuous improvement process. And there are a number of different ways of getting at goals, tracking goals, building plans, and things of that nature. And what I want to do today is to highlight some of those best practices and to ensure that we're all aware of those things that we're doing well and those things that we can actually improve upon. So technology messing with me here. Right. All right. Yeah, we got the technology incorporated. But what I wanted to do, as we work towards complete personalization of learning for our students, the one thing that I want to do is to highlight and reinforce the JROTC best practices, which are directly linked to personalized learning. Now, to do so, what I want to do is start with the foundation of standards and expectations. Now, this slide denotes the goal setting standards, mainly which are derived from the curriculum. In particular, there are 3 lessons where students receive formal instructions on the SMART goal format. Now, for LET ones, as you see in the left-hand corner, the left upper hand corner of the slide there, LET ones, they receive SMART goal instructions as part of their introduction to NEFI, the National Endowment for Financial Education. It's specifically focused on setting SMART goals, setting SMART financial goals. And then as we continue, we get down to the LET 3s. That's where they have the actual formal class, still again dealing with the SMART goal format. And as we proceed on down, the service learning block, the U3, C8, L2, that's for all LET levels. Those are 10 hours of additional instructions that all cadets receive in the service learning arena. And they should also be receiving SMART goal instruction as part of that as well. But the one thing that I'm really trying to press home here is that the overarching focus of the curriculum as it relates to continuous improvement is on maximizing our students' potential and doing that through learning and self-management. This slide, as we progress into the Fulton County Schools expectations, these expectations were derived from a number of different things, primarily cadet command policy via Cadet Command Regulation 145.2 and also 145.8-3, as well as the Fulton County Schools Framework for Standard-Based Instruction, and which also includes the Fulton County JROTC Curriculum Implementation Plan. I'll give you a second to scan these. Now, as you can see, the crux of these expectations are best practices that we do as part of normal operations. And basically, bullets 1 through 3 are where it all begins. Every student participating in JROTC, from day one, they're expected to set SMART goals, and this is how we actually track their development over time. And there again, nothing new to the practices that we currently have in place. Those SMART goals are actually recorded and filed away inside of their portfolio for review. Bullet 4 is critical. This is where we're speaking to the mentorship, the mentoring aspect of what JROTC teachers do, and it's absolutely critical that the goals that are filed away and recorded in those portfolios, that there is some type of a cyclic review of those goals in order for us to ensure that we hold students accountable for their actions and outcomes. Basically, we're going to ensure that they do what they say they're going to do. And that's all key to instilling discipline in them, which will lead to them being self-directed learners and continue the path of continuous improvement. Now, this graphic on this slide depicts the SMART goal format there to the left. As I said before, the intent of this session is not to reteach the SMART goal format, but we want to review it to ensure that we're all aligned and following the same format. But there again, you can review it real quick. But what I really want to touch upon are the best practices as it relates to the SMART goal format. Starting off with the requirement for cadets to set short, medium, and long-range goals. Also referred to as short, medium, and long-term goals. However, this becomes a minimum expectation. However, there are other folks out there that are actually a little bit more advanced, or in addition to setting those short, medium, and long-range goals, they're also using a 5-year plan as a framework to help shape their students' vision. And this requires a little additional thought process upon the students, because they've got to have a clear vision of where they're headed to and where they want to be 5 years from now. And then it requires them to develop that essential skill of backwards planning. So starting at the end state of the goal and then working their way back as they develop a plan, creating medium range and also short range goals. Now the third best practice is one that I used when I served as a senior Army instructor for many years and had really good success with it. A lot of it came from making adjustments over the years and really getting to a point where I can really challenge the students to actually follow through on their action plans and have them work at a more industrious pace towards achieving that goal. And really what this entails, whether you're just using the short, medium, or long-range goals, or whether you have a combination of the 5-year plan or some semblance of that sort. Really, all I did with the successive goal setting was that every student in my class was required to set 3 goals every semester. These goals involved, one goal had to be an academic goal, one goal had to be a wellness goal, the other goal had to be a personal goal, whether that related to some type of professional development within JROTC, service type goal, or whatever it was that was related to their interest of wanting to improve. But the key here was the fact that the time frame that these goals were actually set and established. These goals were actually set, and they were actually to be accomplished during the time frame of the semester. So that allowed me the better part of the semester to use their portfolios, have them provide me brief backs in terms of their action plan, where they were in terms of completing the tasks that they had actually stated and set out to do. The great thing about this is that I'm pretty sure that many of you may have already experienced it. Unless we actually hold them accountable, there are some that may not have the full maturity and understanding of the importance of setting goals where they can be held accountable within a short time frame. And those students will actually set goals that will occur and have actions that will actually take place after they graduate from high school, which may be 3 years from now. So we need to ensure that they're actually building into their plan those short-range goals that happen and occur within that semester time frame, where we can give them that genuine feedback that will allow them to make the changes needed to move forward. All right, so I think I beat SMART goals in the ground, but those are actually 3 best practices that will actually generate really good success for you. And I recommend using a combination of all 3 to generate movement from your students. I'll actually place a couple of these. Well, in addition to these slides, I also have some of the goal setting tools that I'll place in the OneDrive as well as the Google shared folders, so that you can take a look at that as well and use them as you need. Now the action plan, what we have it for is here. Nothing magical about this. There again, all of us being operators and planners, having a wealth of experience setting milestones and action steps towards working towards those milestones. Well, the graphic on the left is just a simplified tool that sort of captures all of those action steps, as well as progress that the students have made in one neat sheet as it relates to that particular goal. I also placed on here the growth plan worksheet. This is one that in the past has provided me some challenges. Primarily in the terms of when you get down to the last bullet where the students have to create a personal growth plan. I would just encourage instructors to give that a little bit more attention. Often the students will complete entries 1 through 4 on the block, and when it says how will you assess yourself, that becomes the end of it. So often it's filed away, and there again, as we're reviewing goals, we have to make sure that we go back in and review this growth plan to ensure that they're actually working towards those improvements that were identified on their personal skills map. All right, so now what I'd like to do is just sort of shift gears for a second, because like I say, we're actually setting SMART goals. We're doing them well. I just wanted to provide that overview so that we have a common base that we're all operating from. And as we continue to move forward and refine our practices and share with one another. But now, what I want to do is transition into, the connection between JROTC curriculum, goal setting, and personalized learning. And if you remember the last session that we had, we sort of touched on personalized learning a little bit. Basically, we talked about it being student-centered. And this slide gives us a little bit more detail as it relates to goal setting. I'll give you a second to read a couple of these bullets. And there again, the one thing to highlight, in terms of what personalized learning is, it's an approach to learning and instruction. Primarily designed around the learning. It's going to be student-centered. focused on their individual strengths, needs, and interests. The great thing about personalized learning, we've been doing this in JROTC as part of the small group instruction, team building for many years. This has been the key aspect of how we've increased active participation among our students. So in the personalized learning process, we're actually working towards holding students personally accountable for their learning and the outcome of their learning process. So the first bullet there with the star beside it, you can see that the learners are responsible for setting their own learning goals and determining their learning path. And they will also track their progress. Something very similar to what we do within the portfolio as we document all of the lessons and the core lessons that our students receive as part of their curriculum instruction. And that the last bullet there being, it's a flexible approach. At any given time, learning objectives, strategies, content, method, pacing, all of those things may vary from learner to learner. They're, again, all centered around what their interests and needs are. Again, the key to personalized learning, there again, it all starts with a vision, a need. I have a need to know this. I have a desire to know this. I want to learn more about this particular aspect of this subject. But it becomes a personal learning goal, and basically it's focused on, there again, learning and achieving. Basically, we're teaching them how to learn. So the last part of what personal learning goals are, we're building the student's capacity to learn. Now the benefits are self-explanatory. As I said before, we do this on an ongoing basis. We just want to ensure that we continue to do the things that we are doing, and that we build upon those and enhance our practices so that our students become even more proficient at what they're doing. But the key here is empowerment of the students. Once they become independent, self-directed learners, they become highly motivated and capable of achieving well at their potential. Now, what I wanted to do was, as we continue to move forward, as the various learning communities are making progress within their teams to build their personalized learning systems, here's what the research says about personalized learning, personal learning goals. I'll give you a second to glance at these as well. There again, the one thing I want to highlight is that when students are involved in their learning, they have the ability to establish their goals based on their interest and set the direction in terms of how they want to receive the information, where they want to receive it. They become highly motivated, and in most cases, you're going to recognize an increase in their confidence, an increase in their motivation, which will often encourage them to pursue challenging tasks or to master tasks that are well beyond their ability, or whether or not the ability is already there. But it's a big stroke for self-esteem and a great step in positive direction towards building self-directed learners. This is one of the last slides I have here, as we're winding down, but I just put this up here to show the cyclic nature of developing personal learning goals, as well as how it actually lays out and compares to the 7-step problem-solving model. Everything begins with identification of the problem, whether that be identifying personal learning goals, that becomes a problem. Then we've got to gather the information, but I'm not going to walk you through the entire plan, but you can see the correlation there. So once the decision is made in terms of this is the alternative course of action that I'm going to use towards working towards those particular goals, there again, just like step 6 on the 7-step problem solving, they're required to make a plan, build this action plan, put it in place, follow up, refine and develop new goals as necessary. So this is something that we do on an ongoing, regular basis. Our students are well versed at it. We just have to ensure that as they continue to work through it, that we push them and challenge them to build even more dynamic processes. I'll leave you with this quote from Harvey McKay, and essentially it sums up everything that I've sort of been harping on there. Again, things that we're already doing, but a dream is just a dream. But once you put a plan and a deadline to it, that dream becomes a goal. So I'd like for you to share that with your students. Keep that in mind. And then some of the key things that we discussed today, how critical it is to do that follow-up in terms of the action plan, holding people, primarily our students, accountable for what it is that they say that they're going to do. Again, thank you for joining me today for this goal setting session, and we'll be following up within the next week or so with a follow-on session as we build upon this to address the action plan, planning for success. All right, thank you.